Welcome to Frustration Nation, presented by Shoot Your Shot Sports.
Hey everyone,
we are
Sorry,
live.
Still getting used to the how to use StreamYard. I know I sound like a boomer, but I'm only 27.
Every week we'll get a little shorter on the delays. All right.
So what's up?
We are currently watching Phoenix, Denver. Actually, I was gonna talk trash or something, but it's actually a pretty close game. So, we'll be reacting to that a little bit as we. Right now, we're in the fourth quarter, about 8 minutes left. Jeez.
Yeah. So, this is the FN podcast for FN fans of FN sports teams, and our FN NBA team is the Phoenix Suns, up 3-0.
Lifelong fans. Yep.
Yeah, lifelong fans as of 2 weeks ago. Love them. Devin Booker stan.
Season
Booker number 4 MVP on Twitter. Yeah. Booker, I don't even know her. Denver, I don't even know. Oh, that doesn't work as well. Anyway, every episode we explore the heartbreak, horror, and humiliation of what it means to be a diehard Suns fan.
Every episode we investigate.
I'm your optimistic Phoenix Suns fan, Furious George, and with me as always is my cheery Phoenix Suns fan, the man in the Phoenix Suns hat. What's up?
Not a lot. As you said, hardcore, lifelong fans, dedicated our lives and our show to this team. So obviously a big moment for us. Just us personally, I think we've earned this moment as Suns fans, suffering as fans of a small market team, going all the way back to the Steve Nash era,
the Charles Barkley era.
Yeah, exactly. We've been through a lot as fans, and so I think we deserve this. This is kind of a chance to celebrate us and our perseverance, the way we stuck through this team through thick and thin over the past 2 weeks. So, very proud fan right now.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Even going back to the Barkley era, he was really the real GOAT, but just overshadowed by MJ his whole career. So, I think that's a view most Suns fans have, if I'm not mistaken. Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I don't think that's a hot take at all that Barkley is the GOAT. I think that's pretty common knowledge among just all NBA fans, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so
fair.
But between Barkley and Nash and Stoudemire, Booker, Paul, and Ayton, and Crowder, that's about all the Suns players I can name. So that have ever played for the Suns. So
I think that's all the players who ever played for the Suns. So
I think you're right.
It's a storied franchise. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway,
Airball.
Let's break it down first. We will get into our event sesh here in a minute. But just so everyone knows, we are, as usual, sponsored by PointsBet, and there are about 7 minutes remaining in this fourth quarter, and we have a parlay now, 3-leg same game NBA parlay on this Phoenix Suns Denver Nuggets game 4. We are playing, tell me if I'm right or not, we are playing the Phoenix Suns against the spread to cover 3 points. We are playing under 223.5 total, and Devin Booker over 26.5 points.
Yes, sir.
Currently 2 of those 3 look to be in good shape. The Phoenix Suns, according to my TV, are up 105.99 with 6.5 minutes left. And Booker has already gone over, and the Suns obviously are up by more than 3 at this moment. of course, where we have some concern is where we're going to end up with for the over total. So we'll see, and we'll try to keep you guys up to date.
It's gonna be close.
Yeah.
So,
but if you ever want to play with us, what you should do is sign up at PointsBet using code FRUSTRATE, FRUSTRATE. And if you do that when you sign up, you will receive a deposit match of anywhere from $50 to $250 right in your account there as a free bet. It's free money. It's great. So definitely take advantage of that. Again, use code FRUSTRATE when you sign up, FRUSTRATE. This is valid in Illinois, Iowa, and New Jersey. And it's void where prohibited. Must be 21 or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services. 107-101 Phoenix with 5:20 left. Let's get into our vent sesh.
All right, let's do it. You want to start with yours, or why don't you start? Because mine's going to be transitioning us to maybe a bigger topic.
So I've been just house sitting for my parents this weekend. Mr. and Mrs. Furious George, if you will. And anyway, my family, we went out to eat the other night. I wasn't sure exactly that my parents moved recently, so I'm still getting used to like what all is in the area by them of, what we can have to eat. So found this restaurant that I had heard people talk about before called Brant's, and we went. And by the way, one of the best burgers I've ever had. Legitimately, it was awesome. But so first, the good news. The bad news is that I called ahead and I said, "Hey, what's the wait time look like? This is on night." And I said, "And is this a family friendly place? Because it is like technically a bar / pub." And so I just wanted to have kind of a heads up of what to expect. And the guy was like, "Oh no, it's absolutely a family friendly place." And I said, "Okay." So, and they said like a 20-minute wait. Well, first of all, we go there. It was like 35 minutes that we had to wait. Second of all, we go in. We had requested to be inside because it was really hot. Well, they didn't have the AC on inside, so it still was hot. And we're sitting at our table. Our one daughter is screaming because she gets like really hangry. And it's really hard to quell that. So that was going on. And then finally, like, we get our food and are kind of enjoying our time. And then this group of 30 somethings come over and they're sitting kitty corner to us. And man, they were not all of them, but this one dude was the worst. And I'm sure you've encountered people like this, especially like since you go to the gym a lot, but is one of those people where they think that they are the best thing that has ever happened to this earth. They think they are the favorite son of Mother Earth. They think that you are so fortunate to be in their presence at that moment. They think that they are because they work a 9-to-5 Monday through Friday corporate job where they're making 6 figures, that they can run whatever they want and do whatever they want anytime. And just super, super arrogant. And I apologize if that describes any of our fan base right now. We love you.
Yeah, we love you. If you listen to our show, all is forgiven.
Yes. Except for this guy. And anyway, he just made, because not only was he that type of person, not only was he extremely arrogant, but he just made he's made sure you heard about it. Like, he was talking about things at the top of his like volume capacity about whatever, and it was always stupid stuff. He kept talking about some guy named Toby, and he talked about some sexual drama from what I could hear. I don't know.
Michael Scott or
no. No, God, please, no.
So he's talking about sexual stuff, works at an office job, talking about Toby. Is that the HR guy's name? Toby,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Um, but yeah, so this guy was just the worst, and of course, the worst part is when you bring your kids somewhere, and you know this as a father too, like you all of a sudden do become more aware of what the
Yeah.
content is that's being spoken about or what's being said. Like if it was just my wife and I at a bar, I probably wouldn't have even had this guy as my vent sesh, but because my kids were there, this guy's being loud, obnoxious. We're trying to have like a family meal where he's dropping f bombs, the s word, like all sorts of stuff. It's just like, dude, like you. Look, okay. There's a certain level that even though okay, you could say that it should be on me because I took my family to a bar. However, counterpoint, I called ahead and asked
Yeah.
them if it's good for families, and they said it was. So
Is
now to
it
bring
just a
that around,
bar, or is it because if it was,
no,
the kids couldn't even sit there, right?
yeah,
So
no, it's not. It's not just a bar, but
okay,
it definitely has that environment. It's definitely like a pub.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but now counterpoint that guy, and whether it's at a restaurant, whether it's at a pub, whether it's at a
Mm-hmm.
sporting event, you should be aware of who is around you and be able to have a filter to know, okay, I probably should not be projecting, especially when you're as loud as that guy is. Like you should not be
Screaming about how you porked your secretary in your BMW,
yeah,
so everybody can hear. Yeah,
his
like at
secretary
least have a
named
filter.
Toby.
Nice. Just have some awareness about who's around you. Like, and part of it's probably if he had been several drinks in, maybe he is just like that oblivious. But yeah. Oh man.
One of my least favorite things I ever heard. I was at a Cubs game. It was a while ago, and all these people, like we were in the bleachers. There's a ton of cussing, and there was this family there, and the husband, the father, he spoke up to this group of rowdy individuals and just said like, "Hey, like, can you keep it down, or can you watch your language? My kid's right here." And instead of being like reasonable, they like yelled back at him, or like, "Well, don't take your kids to the bleachers. Like the bleachers are for drinking," and all this stuff. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, it's not. That's like, you may think that, and if you want
Right.
to do that, that's fine. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's my little vent sesh. And I'm sorry if there's any single male listeners who makes it sound like I'm being a downer, but this is what you get to look forward to as a father. So
No fun. Yeah. Got to be super strict. Yeah.
yep.
No, you're right though. It's just like, even if you are going to be like that, like have some self-awareness, or especially if somebody asks you about that, like your example of the Cubs game, it's like if somebody says something, you'd think any decent human being at that point would just be like, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. No, I get that. So mine, let me update real quick. So the game, yours is a few seconds ahead of mine. Are you back to the game on yours?
I'm at
Let's see.
Phoenix 109, Denver 103 with 3
Okay,
minutes and 20 seconds left.
I mean, we might be able to hit the under still. I didn't think we could, but
all right, 111, 103 with 3:17 left.
So we're over to.
We're
getting close to 214. We'll hit 220 soon. We got to be under 223. If it's a close game, it'll hurt us. But right now, with Phoenix almost up by 10, hopefully there's no intentional fouling. Yeah, it's gonna be close.
Stop the count.
Right. Just forfeit. Well, we haven't mentioned yet, which this if you're listening after the fact, I'm assuming you're an NBA fan, but Jokic was ejected in the third for what was a very questionable foul. It wasn't questionable that it was a foul, but it was just questionable that it deserved an ejection. Actually, I don't even think it was. I think it just blatantly was a bad decision. Like, he was swiping at the ball. Yes, he swiped aggressively and he made contact with him. It should have been a foul. Probably should have been a flagrant, but I don't know how you eject, which you had said too. I don't know how you eject the MVP of the league in an elimination game, in an elimination home game for Denver. I just don't know how you do that. And you could say, well, you're supposed to call it fairly no matter the situation. And I can agree with that. But even taking all those situations out, I don't know how that's an ejection in any regular season game. So
agreed.
Just bizarre, which hurt you because, you had the Jokic in one of the parlays.
Yeah, I had a separate three-leg that had Jokic over on points, and he was at
which he was on pace for
points with 3 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, dumb.
But with him,
anyway, that's a big story.
We probably would not have a shot at the under, which right now it's not looking good, my friend, because it's just under 3 minutes, and they have 120 points total.
So we need like no more shots to go in.
Yep.
All right, so let's just write that off. I'm assuming we both had Suns -3 as separate plays, though, right?
No,
or did you? Oh, you had Suns -3,
but I have
or Suns money line and Booker.
Thanks to points bet, I had a booster for Devin Booker to score 25 or more, and for the Suns to win, and that looks very likely to happen.
Yeah, I was on that. So we've already locked up, and that's not Suns -3. It's just to win. So yeah, we basically can cash that one now.
I mean, the Suns will hit 3 for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
I wouldn't worry about that either.
All right, sweet. So we'll hit that, and I played that same boost. All right, so as we go on with the episode, my vent sesh, I kind of mentioned this before the show, and you said you hadn't really heard about this. So like as we go, maybe you've heard some of this. But this is a developing story. I'm not going to spend too long on it. We'll probably need to have this be a main topic in an upcoming episode as more news comes out. For now, though, I have a strong opinion on this situation, but I'm kind of waiting to see some more information. The Michigan football situation right now with Dr. Anderson, Bo Schembechler, and then now Jim Harbaugh has inserted himself into this situation. I don't know if you are familiar with the stories about Dr. Anderson, the guy at Michigan who had abused his patients. He was a sports doctor, over 800 victims. The whole which has been unfortunately a recurring theme in college athletics. Like you go back to Larry Nassar, if you remember that, with the college gymnasts, just one of those pervert doctors. The whole several of the victims described the events that happen, and it's just it's gross, an abuse of power, trying to pretend that medical procedures.
Hey, so my internet's been way wacky just for this past minute, and I missed a lot of what you said, but it sounds important. So if you could rehash it for me, that'd be really helpful.
No worries. So right now we're my event is basically, this is a developing story out of Ann Arbor. Dr. Anderson, the team doctor, had been abusing several athletes on the football team and other sports teams, going back to I believe this all the way back to the 70s, but even into the 90s.
Oh my goodness.
And over 800 people have come forward and said they were a victim. And it's kind of, if you're familiar with Larry Nassar and that story with the college gymnast, same kind of thing. Medical procedures where he does unnecessary sexual related things or makes comments. It's just it's gross. And that's been known for a while, and victims have been coming forward, and there's been investigations that's kind of been ongoing. It's terrible, and it's been something that's been in the news for a while, but kind of not at the forefront for a little bit. So we haven't talked about it. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show at all, but it really hasn't been in the news.
I haven't heard you bring this up until right now.
Yeah, so this is, I don't know when stories first came out about Dr. Anderson specifically, but more recently, stories have come out that Bo Schembechler, legendary Michigan coach, which I don't even want to say that anymore, honestly. He had not only covered up these stories of abuse, it's clear that he knew about it, which you speculate he probably would have had to, but people have come out and said, yeah, Dr. Anderson was a joke in the locker room. People said oh, if you don't hustle at practice, we're going to send you to a procedure with Dr. Anderson, which when you think about it, threatening molestation in order to motivate better performance at practices. If you actually say that out loud, like coaches were aware of this and would make comments and jokes about it. It's mind-boggling to even say that. Like I know maybe you could say culture has changed in the past couple decades, but I don't know any situation where you could actually say that and think that's okay.
What is up with Michigan collegiate athletic trainers and doctors?
Something about the region, I guess. It's just bizarre. Yeah. Michigan and Michigan State now both.
Am I in danger for drinking water from the Great Lakes like those gentlemen?
The Flint water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so bizarre. Yeah. I mean, and it unfortunately it makes you think like then you have Penn State too, and that's just 3 teams in the Big Ten only. So it's like it just makes you think like how much is this happening? I mean,
yeah,
it's such a widespread issue. Just the abuse of power and sexual assault throughout colleges. Like you combine those two issues with athletics. I mean, this is a huge issue right now. And a lot of it is a culture issue.
Don't you just hate that this stuff keeps popping up? Like, I don't understand. It's hard for me to comprehend how you can have between Nasser and Sandusky, you can have 2 very high profile cases of this, and then to compound that with the Me Too movement, and then also the quote unquote cancel culture era that we live in. It's wild to me that you could have this stuff even going on. Like,
yeah,
and it's obviously horrible. Obviously way more horrible than the fact that the game is officially on the over.
Yeah, right. That is, I was watching that too as we were talking. So, I mean, this is a more serious topic right now, obviously, but yeah, that does suck that we hit that over. So, but yeah, so the reason this Dr. Anderson stuff has resurfaced is because Bo Schembechler, Michigan coach, has been involved now beyond the speculation of I wonder if he knew, and now it is all but confirmed that he not only knew but actively covered up Dr. Anderson's abuse. And Bo Schembechler's son and 2 other former players came forward and had a press conference a few days ago where they said, his son specifically, I'll talk about, said, I told my dad about the abuse, that he was molested. Remember, Bo's own son goes to him and says, the team doctor molested me. And Bo not only covers up his own son's abuse, but gets into an argument with him and punches him in the chest during this argument and tells him never say anything about this.
Bobby
like to his own son. Right. And it's like, as a father, like it's just disgusting. Like think about caring so much about your football program that your son comes to you and tells you the team doctor sexually assaulted me and the team is more important to you than your son. You know, like just, I mean, Bo Schembechler, who has been considered a Michigan legend, the guy the program's built on, like he's a monster. Like to have that come out over the past few days, I mean, it's culture shattering at Michigan because you look at,
so
I mean, like,
let me ask you just so that like, you know, the listeners and even myself can have a proper understanding of this. Is this like the same level as like, is Schembechler on the same pedestal as Paterno?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really in the Penn State scene enough to know, like, I think there are differences, which unfortunately a lot more Penn State fans came out in support of Paterno. And I really hope to not see much of that with Michigan fans. Of course, there's some, but
the problem with
as far as how they shaped a program, I don't know.
The difference with Penn State is that this wasn't a team doctor, that was an actual coach on the team who was involved with that. Not that that makes one is worse than the other, but
it looks like what Bo did is worse than what Paterno did, because Paterno, I am sure, knew about it and covered it up.
Yeah.
But Bo not only knew about it and covered it up, but it was his own son, and
that's just
then like actively assaults his son.
Yeah.
And then what happened is his Bo's wife and several people on the team, like front office, got the doctor out. Like they basically fired him from Michigan. And Bo goes and gets him back and says, no, you're not going to fire my doctor. And people have speculated that the reason he wants this guy is because if a player gets injured and you have blackmail on the doctor, you can tell the doctor, hey, my guy's going to play in the game. And like, what's he going to tell you? No, like it gives him more power over the IR on his team because he has something on his team doctor. Like, we don't know because Bo's dead, but it seems like there may have been some of that at work,
Wow.
So just corruption all the way down. The way they described the abuse, it's disgusting. You start, you don't speculate, but you think about, like, with 800 victims, how many current NFL guys have been like affected by this or knew about this, or like if it was an active joke in the locker room. You think about like how many Hall of Famers from Michigan played during that era. Like, is this something, will more names come out? Will more reports come out and testimonies? Like, what are people's thoughts on this? Like, I don't know if this is going to become as big a news story as the Penn State thing did nationally, but it should, and it's every bit as bad. So yeah, it's
I really hate to interrupt, because this obviously is a serious topic and should be taken seriously. But as I mentioned to you before the show, I'm house sitting and dog sitting for my parents, and the dog needs to go to the bathroom. So I will be back in a little bit. Why don't you move on? You can either talk more about this, you can talk about the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, whatever you want to talk about, but entertain everyone for the next little bit while I'm out.
Will do. Yep. Yeah. So as we just kind of continue with this and wrap this up, again, I don't want to say too much now or go on too long on this. I think it deserves its own full topic in a later episode, and I kind of want to wait until maybe some investigations have been initiated, hopefully, or more reports will come out, or more people have spoken. Like, I think it's a little early to come out and like give my full thoughts on this, but I am already at the point where, like, you believe the victims, and there's going to be defenders who unfortunately are going to take Bo's side and say, oh, he's not alive to defend himself. But I've seen enough and I've heard enough. The statue of Bo Schembechler should be torn down at Michigan. Schembechler Hall should be renamed. And Michigan needs to make drastic cultural changes. And this is a compounded issue by the fact that Jim Harbaugh basically dresses up like Bo Schembechler on the sideline of every game. Like, he played for Bo, was like a father figure to him. And then now he injects himself into this by, when he was asked about the situation, rather than just saying something like, oh, I'm not going to speak on an ongoing issue, no comment, that kind of thing. He says, that's not the Bo I know. Kind of, he plays the whole like disbelief card. And that was before Schembechler's son and all these other two athletes came out and had their press conference. So yeah, now that looks really bad, that you basically just took Bo's side and defended him without knowing maybe the full story, whatever the excuse is. Now he has injected himself into the situation. He's a guy who has tried to be the Michigan man, Bo disciple, like build his program modeled after him. Like, Harbaugh's already had plenty of other issues as far as a head coach, just results based. But now the whole identity issue and cultural issues of the way he models himself after Bo, like all of the slogans that are up in the facilities, all the quotes that are used, the mannerisms and the sayings he has that he borrows from Bo, like all that stuff is going to need to change. And I just don't know how a guy who is so biased on this situation and so emotionally invested in somebody he looked up to as a role model, I don't know how he personally is able to make those changes. It's going to be difficult enough for the program. I mean, to make a parallel, once he gets back, maybe I'll bring this up to him, but like a parallel would be like the impact Ditka had on the Bears. Like, imagine now trying to go back and after the fact scrub every memory of Mike Ditka from the Bears. Like, it's almost an impossibility. And you have a similar situation with Bo, where like every quote, all of the pictures that are up in the, like, basically you're looking at a complete remodel, not only of the facilities, but of the verbiage that is used in your program, the terminology, I mean, all of the social media campaigns and things like that that you've used that use highlights of him or quotes. I mean, it's just a disaster at this point. Like, he's a guy who the program has been built on his back, and then now you see what he's done, and it's just like, it's program defining, because now you're going to need to completely redo what your identity is as a team. And you could argue that already needed to be done just based on results on the field. But this is obviously a bigger issue. And whether you were willing to do that for just the sake of winning games or not, you need to do that now for the sake of integrity and your moral compass. So I don't see how the program can continue to be defined by Bo, modeled after what he did. Like, it's just, moving forward, you need to completely reshape the identity. And like, I don't know what you do that on, because you can't do it on the current head coach who goes out there and does everything he can to dress like and act like his mentor, Bo. So like, not only do we need to come up with a whole new identity, but we can't base it on the current guy. And I don't think the current guy is going to be able to make those changes. It's just a disaster. Like, I don't know. Kyle, you're back now. Like, while you were gone, I was just saying, like, imagine, like, for you being a Bears fan, imagine from your perspective if something happened and you had to completely overnight scrub every memory of Mike Ditka from the Bears. Like, where do you even start? Like, all of the social media highlight clips and like the quotes that are used, like all these publications and journalists who like
the whole like Da Bears skit would be like,
yeah, Da Bears, like, you can't say Da Bears anymore. Like, Michigan, the team. That was Bo's quote. Those who stay will be champions. That was Bo. Like, every slogan you use, every poster you have on the walls, you're like scrubbing the program. And it's going to be, at least you should be. If you don't, then we have another problem, because at that point the university would be pretty blatantly supporting him despite these allegations. So,
well,
I mean, we're at, this is going to be,
what'll be interesting
Yep.
is, I don't remember exactly what Penn State's penalty was, but I know it was multiple years without what's the word?
bowl eligibility, or
Yeah, multiple years without bowl eligibility, and there was something with recruiting that was affected as well. Like, not that Michigan football was doing so hot based on last year anyway, but now it's going to be even that much more set back because of probably penalties regarding recruiting. And even if there aren't penalties regarding recruiting, it's still going to hurt your recruiting, because parents and students are not going to want to be going there, knowing that history, even if proper precautions are taken care of. The question would remain, why should I trust so-and-so, whether it's coach, athletic director, whomever, why should I trust them to hire the next doctor or athletic trainer when they screwed up so badly in the last one? Like, Michigan football is going to take a big hit because of this. And it's like, you've talked about so much in this past, year on Frustration Nation, how, for you, the Ohio State Michigan rivalry doesn't even mean that much anymore. So much because Ohio State is just eons and eons and eons ahead of Michigan in terms of just overall football and athleticism and everything. Well, now that rivalry is going to take an even heavier hit, because with, if there's recruiting penalties, the reputation, all that stuff, like, you are now going to be at least a decade even further behind where Ohio State is, and probably you're already like a half decade behind where Ohio State is. Like,
it's crazy.
It's going to it's going to take a lot to either go right for Michigan or a lot to go wrong for Ohio State to get back to a place where we can talk about this rivalry as a true, like, 50-50 who's going to win, I don't know, game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, that's been off the table in my mind for so long, but yeah, stuff like this does not help.
I know, I know it has, but that's what I'm saying is that
right.
now it, like, if there was ever any hope of, oh, if we got this coach or if we were able to recruit this many 5 stars or if Ryan Day all of a sudden had to leave Ohio State and some idiot head coach went in there, you could have all these hopes of, oh, if these things happen, maybe
You're
the
only a couple
rivalry will turn
steps
around.
away from something
Yeah,
happening.
but
right.
now you're taking 5 to 10 steps backwards because of this awful piece of history.
Yeah.
And really,
No,
it truly fits. You know, we built this podcast on the idea that it's comedy, but when you do think about Frustration Nation, when you do think about the horror and humiliation of what it means to be a diehard fan, like you talking about you having to scrub this, you know, great coach from your memory, all of, like you said, the iconography, the quotes he had, all of that stuff is now going to be just tried to be canceled as much as possible. That is where your fandom comes into play, and that's where it is very, very truly the epitome of Frustration Nation, where this is something that is obviously so incredibly avoidable, and these things happen. And not, sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that, like these things happen, like these things
I get you.
happened,
These things occurred, like come out, and
and now like everything has to be recontextualized. So
I mean, every I've been, what kind of helps me like not be as biased or emotionally invested in this is because, as I've said on this show, I've stepped away from trying to care about Michigan football just based on the field results.
right.
And so I'm hopefully maybe able to look at this a little more objectively. But like if you're a Michigan football fan, the current years have been so bad and so disappointing that what Michigan fans take pride in is the history and the culture. Like the 10-year war between Bo and Woody. Oh, can't talk about that anymore because Bo was a scumbag. Like now the only thing, like imagine the Bears, the 85 Bears. Oh, we can't celebrate that anymore because it's been canceled and there was a ton of controversy and we're not allowed to talk about Ditka. What do you have left? Like, and then the NFL, you actually can bounce back. You get a new coach and GM and you can build a new culture because you have just as many shots to get good players as every other team does. And college football, where that affects your recruiting, I mean, that can kill a program. It can completely kill a program. And I don't think there's going to be. Go ahead.
I just, you know, there will be some high profile high school athletes that will elect to go to Michigan because they still believe in the school by its name, but there will be a very the number is going to plummet. You know, like I feel like now your best chance of getting a 5-star athlete at Michigan is to get a 5-star athlete that has said ever since they were a little boy that I want to play at Michigan. That's like your only shot.
And then
now.
Hope for some reason he's okay with what has happened. And I guess I should say that differently. I'm not implying anyone who goes to Michigan is okay with what happened, but I mean somebody who's willing to overlook when it comes to their own recruiting. Because obviously the people who had committed these crimes aren't on the team anymore. They aren't alive anymore. So I'm not saying anyone who goes there is endorsing this right now, but if the program does not take the proper steps and they look like they are endorsing what happened, I mean, what kind of mental gymnastics do you have to do to be okay with playing for that team? I don't think there's going to be any recruiting or like bowl sanctions against the team, because it's like, if the current president was the president then absolutely. But I mean, Anderson has already died. Bo has already died. And what I don't want is people to use that as an excuse for then no justice can be done. We shouldn't even look into it. Like, no, this is still like, just because they've died and you can't go back and punish them for it doesn't mean you shouldn't still do a full investigation and like look for ways to help the victims and completely change your program, like all those difficult steps we're talking about. But I think because of that, you're not going to see any NCAA sanctions or anything like that. But with college and the way recruiting works, the bigger issue is how this affects the perception of the university, especially when your current head coach injected himself into this situation by saying before this press conference, that's not the Bo I know. I don't believe he would do that. When he didn't have to involve himself in this at all. But now you have Jim Harbaugh, who was Bo disciple. Bo was my father figure. I dress up like him on the sideline every day. I preach the same culture. I teach the same things. And now I've basically said that I didn't believe he had done this. I mean, this is almost borderline. Like, this is fireable in my mind. Yeah. And I believed he should have been fired just based on results, like I've been saying. But I mean, the culture needs to make such a drastic change. I don't know how the university can do anything other than tear down the statue of Bo, rename Schembechler Hall, make drastic coaching staff changes. And at that point, you're starting to square one, build your program from the ground up like a Northwestern or an Illinois football. And I know you still have that name behind you, and you're still Michigan, but your reputation and the perception of your program took a huge hit. You fall out of, at least before you were still like a big program who had just been underachieving. I think you even lost that with this news. Like, I think now you are bottom half of the Big Ten, bottom of the barrel. Like, Indiana football at this point has a richer culture than Michigan does, just based on the past few years of success and the way Tom Allen's been coaching. Like, if we erase Bo and then now you're just left with Jim Harbaugh, who's just been very underwhelming, like, what do you build your culture on? It's just, we'll kind of leave it there. I think as more news comes out, we'll look into this. I'll have more thoughts as we go. That we could devote a whole main topic to this in the future. And this did go on really long for event sesh, but we'll move on.
I had no idea about this. I haven't seen a single thing about it, probably because the people I follow on Twitter don't like to tweet like serious stuff like this. But
and I don't think it's become a huge national story yet. Like Paterno was
problem.
It will get to there though. Like, we're going to be looking at a huge national story in the next few weeks.
Well, I had other things on our main topics, such as I guess I'll shout it out real quickly. The Cubs, they've been on fire again. Like, they had a 3-game skid against the Giants, but they just they just got done sweeping the St. Louis Cardinals. Their all around game's been great. I mean, their starting pitching has, I don't know what their overall ERA is, but they haven't given up much more than like maybe 4 or 5 runs has been the max they've given up in the past month. And most of the games I've been watching or following have been, like 2 runs, 3 runs. So like really good starting pitching. The bullpen has a collective ERA of under 1.5.
Is that good?
Yeah. Craig Kimbrell, I don't know what it is now, but a couple days ago his ERA was 0.69.
Nice.
Yep. I don't know what it is now, but it's lower than that because he hasn't given up a run this weekend. Their pitching's
the whole ninth today too. Yep.
Yeah. The hitting has been way better than it has been. And I don't want to get like ahead of myself, but the hitting, the way they've been hitting to me reminds me more of what the team was built on in 2015 and 16, which was consistently putting the ball in play. When you put the ball in play, good things happen. You get weird bounces, you get errors, you get a blooper that falls down, you get run opportunities, you get on base. Homers will come, homers will definitely help you, and there's plenty of power on the team. But overall, I haven't looked at stats to back this up. This is just from my own perception. Overall, over the past month, the Cubs have had a much better overall contact rate. I'm guessing their BABIP, which is batting average of balls in play, is probably a lot higher than in past years. If there's a fan that would like a fan of our show that would like to check on that for me, that would be much appreciated. So I can have a fact checker, because right now I'm honestly too lazy to look it up myself. I'm tired, apparently.
I'm gonna look it up and we'll retweet it. Give you some credit.
There we go. Yes, the Cubs are on fire. We just got done watching the Phoenix Suns. They swept the Nuggets in 4.
Let's go.
That was our other main topic. As like we said, as lifelong diehard Suns fans, it means a lot to see them advance to the Western Conference Finals. Who do you want to see them play? LA Clippers or Utah Jazz?
From an entertainment standpoint, the Clippers. Just because you have more storylines, like more stars,
Playoff P,
I guess. Yeah, I feel like that'd just be like that way, either Clippers or Suns. I mean, honestly, all 3 of the teams left at this point making it to the finals would be huge for all 3 of those fan bases. You know,
the Jazz are like, okay, so obviously they have Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, and they do have some bigger names, but when you're talking like top 5 superstars in the league, that's definitely Kawhi is in that conversation, and Kawhi is on the Clippers. Like, I agree with you. I think either matchup would be entertaining, but a lot of people this year have said that the Nuggets are basically the same as the Jazz, and I feel that way too, because they honestly are pretty similar if you think about it. And you just got done watching the Suns sweep the Nuggets. I'm not saying it'd go exactly the same with the Jazz. The Jazz are a very good team.
But
yeah, I think I would prefer to see the Clippers, but I like the Jazz. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing either, but I think the Clippers, just genuine overall entertainment, would be better.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if I knew for sure that the Suns were going to beat whichever team they faced, then give me the Clippers, because beating them would be more entertaining. But if the Jazz face them, that way at least I know whichever team wins, I'm not going to hate in the finals. So yeah, I guess I would look at it that way. But
let's assume the Suns make it to the finals. Do you want to see them play Milwaukee, the Nets? Who's left? Wait, the Bucks, the Nets. That's that it?
Are the Sixers, or were they eliminated already?
Sixers and Hawks, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So Sixers,
I don't know.
Hawks,
I
Bucks,
just don't see. I don't see the Hawks having a chance, and I don't really care about them either way, so I won't say anything on them. Sixers are. I mean, I don't hate the Sixers. I'm okay with them. So, like, as far as teams,
you're kind of a fan.
Yeah, especially compared to the other teams in the East. So, like, as far as who I would want to see win from the East, I'd want the Sixers more than any of those other teams. If the Suns are going to win the whole thing, part of me wants to see them do it against the Nets.
Yeah,
because that way you don't have people trying to put an asterisk on it. But are the Nets going to still have injuries when they get to the finals if they get past the Bucks? I don't know. I think it'd be super intriguing if the Bucks do beat the Nets, just because at that point you look at the teams left in the finals and you have a lot of, or in the playoffs, you have a lot of small market teams. Which I think is rare and good for the league. So I mean, you could argue, the Nets were injured, the Lakers were injured, but
part of the NBA problem is that people always talk about like free agent destinations. They want to go
Mhm.
someplace warm and they want to go somewhere where it's a huge market so they can expand their brand. And so you always
Lakers
hear,
dead, Nets dead,
yeah,
Heat
Miami,
dead.
yeah,
Yep.
Chicago,
I don't
very dead.
yeah, or even like the Knicks, I mean they're a big name, but they have
Who?
struggled. So like the Knicks are finally good this year and then gone, So you look at teams left like the Jazz. I mean the classic example for forever has been Milwaukee. It's like
Yep.
why is Giannis still there? Well, if he's able to be successful with them finally, as much as I don't like Wisconsin teams, I think that's good for the league because it encourages stars to maybe stick it out where they're at. If they beat the
Yep.
Nets, which are the super team that all the superstars bailed to go play on, if they get beat by Giannis staying in Milwaukee, I think that's a statement. So
Agreed.
I don't know if it changes the league, but I think it's a big step. So I don't know. I think I'd like to see, even though I don't like Milwaukee, I'd like to see them beat the Nets. I'd like to see the Sixers. I mean, they're not a small market team or anything, but I mean, if you could see like
the Sixers do nothing for me from an entertainment standpoint. I don't find,
they're not very exciting.
yeah,
Really.
I don't find Simmons very interesting at all.
Mhm.
Embiid is interesting, but he's like the only guy, and I feel like he's half the time he's injured.
Yeah.
I don't know. The
Even
Nets,
the
if you're
Nets are
looking at
super.
entertainment, if you're looking for entertainment, the Nets is where it's at. And if you're looking for
Yeah.
the most publicity and entertaining finals, Clippers Nets is the one you would want to root for. That's where the most money will be exchanged, but I'm not rooting for that. I want
Because then
Suns.
that's still the big market teams, the super teams, and then that just is more of
Yeah.
the same with some different teams. But yeah, I mean, if you could have like a Suns Bucks final,
It's
like
different
that's
teams, but it's a lot of the same faces. KD
right.
and Kyrie,
Kawhi, yeah.
Kawhi, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, if you could have Giannis and the Bucks against Booker and the Net, and Booker and the Suns, I mean, I think that's just, I mean, that's great for the sport, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
But
that's kind of what I'm hoping.
I think the Suns can take the Nets, so I kind of want to see that just for that. But
It's kind of the same as like I would rather them face the Clippers if I knew they were going to win. Yeah, I would rather them face the Nets too if I knew they were going to win. But
yeah.
as far as like trying to cover my bases as much as possible, so I'm not as upset either way, I would rather see a team like the Bucks beat the Nets and then a team like the Jazz beat the Clippers. So yeah, but I mean,
Agreed.
at least it's the NBA playoffs. We've said this multiple times. Just it's kind of hard to get into it, maybe unless your team is in it. Like I'm just gonna be honest, the NBA playoffs just aren't that good compared to NHL playoffs. Definitely the NFL playoffs, and even MLB playoffs are kind of more exciting to me than the NBA. So I don't know. Part of it, I'm just not the biggest NBA fan, so that's a lot of it. But also their playoffs are just not super compelling. But I think having some like different matchups and some interesting teams has helped.
I agree, but maybe it's because the Bulls have not been in the playoffs for so long, and maybe it's because this year I finally like chose a team to cheer for. But I've been
Yeah.
enjoying the NBA playoffs more than I ever normally do,
Yeah.
personally. And I think the other part of it is I I I know people always say, "Oh, when LeBron's not in the playoffs, the NBA doesn't do as well. They don't do as well with numbers." I find it more interesting and more entertaining when he's out because it's like let somebody else do something for once. Let's see, I'm
It's kind
sure.
of like when Brady's out of the Super Bowl. Like we're not Brady haters, but I can actually understand why people get sick of seeing him in the championship. It's like let's just see like Mahomes and Rodgers or something. Like it is just a nice break to see other people.
Well, the year when it was the Chiefs Niners Super Bowl,
yeah,
that was the year when the Patriots with Brady were bounced in the first round.
Mhm.
It was kind of weird. Like that whole
Right.
it felt, yeah. That and like when the Ravens and the Niners played when it was Joe Flacco,
Yeah,
it's like
right.
this isn't Peyton Manning or Tom
Bizarre.
Brady. What's going on? Yeah.
Right. Because you look at like Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and it's Brady, Manning, Brady, Flacco, Brady, man. It's just like, yeah, it's
Well,
funny.
yeah, there's graphic. There's a graphic. Go.
Mhm.
I don't know. You'd have to update it now, but even now, there's a graphic going all the way
Mhm.
back to like the year 2000 or 2001, and every Super Bowl since that time has had either Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger as as the AFC representative, and the only ones that are not that would be Pat Mahomes and Joe Flacco. But every single other Super Bowl, it's either
Yeah.
Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, or Tom Brady,
Because the
which is
NFC you had, yeah,
crazy.
Eli Manning was in there several times, and then yeah, you get the Niners. But yeah, the AFC is basically the same guys over and over.
Oh yeah,
Or even Breeze, and then Rogers won one. You know, like it's a
Rex
bigger mix.
Grossman.
Yeah, Grossman was the representative one year. Yeah. So yeah, it is funny. But yeah, just more of that, like, which is more compelling. Like, you could argue having a star, having a villain, like, all that is more compelling in some sense.
Yeah.
But year after year of that, it's also very interesting to have a break where you have a lot of new faces and a lot of things that could go different ways. So yeah, it's been good.
Speaking of Pat Mahomes, this day in Major League Baseball history,
Yep.
the Detroit Tigers drafted Pat Mahomes. Is that true?
It is true. Detroit Tigers legend Pat Mahomes. And then I forget where I saw this, but the joke, which I've heard this a lot from Detroit fans, that the Tigers have drafted more Super Bowl winning quarterbacks than the Lions have. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what you say to that. Like, I mean, it's funny objectively, but it hurts a little bit.
Hey,
Yeah.
don't take it too personally because they've drafted more than a lot of teams have when you think about it. The Browns, like, come on.
Yeah.
And they've drafted the same amount as a lot of teams too, like the Bears. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So
I mean, it's just funny because you could say the same thing about who was it that drafted Russell Wilson? I'm trying to remember. Maybe the Diamondbacks or
is it
something.
Texas?
That's right, Texas, the
It's
Rangers.
the Rangers. Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, that's pretty common. So it's not like he's the one quarterback who's been drafted, but it is funny.
Yeah.
I think there's another active quarterback who was also drafted. Kyler
Murray. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is funny, but
Jeff
yeah,
Samardzija
interesting trivia.
was a Notre Dame wide receiver who also played baseball, drafted by the Cubs. So
that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, you get a lot of multi-sport athletes all through high school and even college. So I mean, it's not that uncommon, but interesting trivia. It'd be funny to wear a Mahomes Tiger jersey too.
I was going to ask you if you've seen anybody have one.
I don't remember that. I mean, they don't sell them in the shop or anything, but I mean, how pathetic would that be? But I'm sure people have done the custom ones. So
you should get one.
I mean, if it was that or any player currently on the Tigers, there's nobody who's like far and away a favorite over him. I mean, I already have a Cabrera shirt.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, not a jersey, but a shirt. And honestly, I'm past the point of wanting a Cabrera jersey. Like, just get off my team, honestly.
Would you are you the type of
another
person you would
issue,
want
but
throwback players? Like, would you want a
Verlander.
Pudge or a Verlander?
I once they've retired, I would. Like, I would wear a Barry Sanders jersey now.
What about Pudge?
Yeah, I would. Because it's a guy. I don't know. I mean, it depends.
Alan
like, if
Trammell.
it's somebody, right? If it's somebody I watched play, maybe like Pudge. I remember he was the catcher while I was first a fan. So like, you have that first memory of being a Tigers fan. He's your player, you know. So like, that's cool. But Sanders, like, I would still wear a Barry Sanders jersey, but I don't remember ever watching him play. So I don't know. I'd have to, like, each one's
Frank
case
Tanana?
by case. Frank Tanana? I don't even know who that is.
You don't?
No. Is he a Tigers player?
So, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. He's not a Hall of Fame pitcher, but he's
fake
like
fan.
Yeah. But he's like pretty good. Like, he would be he's a he had a career of like a good / above average player, but he wasn't like a Hall of Fame player.
Hmm.
But I would think I
Nice.
don't know what era he played in, if he was 70s or 80s. Might have been 70s.
So tell me how many of these players you've heard of. There's statues in the outfield, which we want to at some point both of us go to Comerica Park for a game. But there's what's it called?
Ty Cobb,
let me
yes.
see. So this is called so there's a name for it, but it doesn't say right here. But there's several statues in the outfield. Willie Horton,
No.
Ty Cobb,
Yes.
Al Kaline, Charlie
Yes.
Gehringer,
No.
Hal Newhouser,
Maybe.
Hank Greenberg.
Isn't that a singer?
Maybe he's saying, I don't know. So those are the statues they have in the outfield. So I mean, there are several iconic
Al Kaline.
former
I
players.
recognize that name for sure.
I mean, the two main ones probably are Kaline and Ty Cobb. So
was
I mean, those feel like
Kaline on
everybody's
the
players.
was he like the star on the Tigers team that last one in the 80s or whatever?
86 or whatever year that was. I think he was playing then. I don't remember for sure. Or maybe he would retire. He had left by then. 1986.
Probably not, because he was born in 1934. So he would have been
7-year-old Al Kaline batting cleanup for the Tigers. So then would Ty Cobb was even older, so yeah.
He won the world Al Kaline won the World Series with the Tigers in 1968.
1 year short of a nice history fact.
He was an 18-time All-Star.
That's insane. I mean, back then you'd have to look and see who were his peers, but I mean, there were several great players in that era. So
wow, so he played from 53 to 74. So he played 21 seasons, and 18 of those seasons he was an All-Star.
That's insane.
So
wow.
So wait, hold up. So the only seasons he missed was 22 seasons he played, 18 he's All-Star. So the 4 seasons he missed were 53, 54, and then 72 and 73. So from fifth,
he had a 20-year gap between missing appearances.
Yeah.
And his first 2 were like when he was still new to the league, probably, right?
Right.
So once he was an established player, he then went 20 years without missing an All-Star game, basically. That's crazy.
I'll look up Frank Tanana for you.
Yeah, I had actually never heard of him. I probably seen his name or something around before, but I don't remember it.
So he played for the Tigers from 85 to 92.
So he was on the championship team.
No, because it doesn't say he won a World Series.
85. I thought the championship was in 86. Maybe not.
What? You are a fake fan. What the heck, dude? Wow.
It is funny. Like
84.
84. Okay. 1984. Yeah. I am bad with I feel like this is an area you're stronger in with your teams than I am with mine. Like even like you look at Red Wings, like the Russian 5, and like all my teams have like the old history. And I just am not as good with that, like old Lions history or like Pistons trivia from the bad boy era, stuff like that. Like I just don't know my own team's really old history as well.
So, okay. So first of all, Frank Tanana is from Detroit. He's like born in Detroit. He played on the California Angels, and he was the number 2 starter behind Nolan Ryan.
Understandable.
Then he went from the Angels to the Red Sox. So he played for the Angels for 7 seasons, Red Sox for 1981, Rangers, Texas Rangers from 82 to 85, where he also played with Nolan Ryan. Then the Tigers from 85 to 92. So he was there for 7 years.
Jeez.
Then he was on the Mets and Yankees for the 1993 season.
Did he win a championship with the Yankees?
He
1990.
he didn't win any championships.
Good for him.
But the reason I'm surprised you haven't asked like how I know about him.
Yeah, I am interested why you pulled that name.
So you should probably start doing your research. I want to look into having him on the show, because he is my youth pastor's father-in-law.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a guy you just knew and then found out he played for the Tigers or
I mean,
whatever.
I didn't know him because
Or I just mean like you had the connection and then found out of who he played for.
So
or whatever.
when I was in high school, my youth pastor organized like this church event to have Frank Tanana come speak, and I was like, I don't know who that is. My dad was like, "Oh, Frank Tanana," and he's telling me, who it is, and so I knew that way we go, and then my youth pastor goes up and he's like, "My own father-in-law, Frank Tanana." I'm like, "Oh."
That's great. Yeah.
So
I forget which. I heard a Vikings player. Same thing. Like at a youth group thing, there was a current player for the Vikings came and talked. It was like, oh, that's cool. But I couldn't tell you even who it was. So, but he was currently playing
Randy
for them.
Moss.
Heard. Yeah, some no name. Yeah, it was Adrian Peterson, something like that. So.
Brett Favre.
Yeah, right. Vikings legend Brett Favre.
Yeah. Jets legend Brett Favre.
Well known for another reason.
So since we already did our ad read and since we have only effing idiot, there's one more topic I want to talk about.
Yep.
I have seen like rumors about it. They didn't really explore it until today. I was listening to another college football related podcast and they were talking about it. But this is and maybe you even know more about it than I do, but there's
today I was hearing some stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a proposal going out about a college football expanded playoff. This is something you've been very vocal about since we started the podcast, probably before then. But and your point has always been with the way it's currently structured, it just encourages top heaviness in the league. There's no parity, and you wonder, people always talk about how electric March Madness is, and everyone loves college sports because of the underdogs and the upsets. And with college football, the way it's currently structured in the playoff, you just never get that. I have a stat here that says 20 of the 28 all-time playoff slots have gone to 4 teams: Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. So of the 7 seasons they've done this, only 8 teams have not been Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. And I know for a fact Notre Dame has been there twice at least.
I'm surprised they didn't just list Notre Dame in that list and then trim it even more. And yeah, like you said, it just shows. I mean, there's clearly levels: Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State, and then below that, I'd say like Oklahoma, Notre Dame. Who else would you even put in that? Georgia, maybe.
Oregon, were they there? Georgia, I guess, yeah.
I mean, Oregon went once. TCU went once. Michigan State went once.
Yeah.
So I don't know. No, this is awesome. And I heard a proposal. I don't know if this is part of the proposal or just like somebody I was listening to talk about this. I would love to see like top 6 seeds get home games. Can you because right now the way the bowl games work, it's like a separate location or a what's it called, like a whatever site, neutral site. You know how electric a home playoff game would be in college football, like a sellout home crowd, be awesome. So I don't know if that's going to be part of it or not, but yeah, this needs to happen just for the product. And people will argue, well, why would I want to go see Alabama beat down Boise State? Like if that's an at-large, like the winner of their small conference or whatever. Yeah, because right now that's going to happen for several years. But you know how recruiting works. You could be the 7th best quarterback in the country and you would
Wait,
rather be Alabama's backup than be a starter at one of these other schools,
right. So I'm sorry, I was talking to my wife. So you broke
Yep.
it down exactly everything? Because from my understanding, what it is
Mhm.
that the top 6 teams that are in the rankings go, and then it's like, what was it? No, it's the
6 conference winners.
yeah,
Right.
6 conference winners and then 6 at-large teams. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
the six conference winners and then whoever is left that's the best after that.
Which, like, for you as a Notre Dame fan can speak to this, but I think that's fair. Like, if you're in a conference and you win the conference, you should get an automatic bid. So, like, if Northwestern ever found a way to win the Big Ten and their record is 8-4, you should go to the playoff. Like,
I
I'm
agree.
completely cool with that. And then Notre Dame, even if you don't have a conference, you still have enough at-large spots. You're going to probably be able to make the playoffs if you're good. So I think this is just good for the league.
This podcast that I was listening to, they were talking about how what is so helpful with this is that when you look at the Power 5 conferences, the only conference championship that's ever worth your time watching and ever worth entertaining, and the only championship you could ever compare to a legitimate playoff game is the SEC championship game.
Right.
And that speaks to the power of those schools in that conference. Maybe Big Ten at times, maybe Pac-12 at times when you're at the heights of Oregon and USC, but most of the time, like, nobody wants to see Clemson go play Pitt or
Right.
North Carolina. Like, come on. So this would be very good because it would legitimize all of those championship games, because if you, let's say it is Clemson versus Pitt, if Pitt gives Clemson a run for their money and upsets them, well, now, even though Clemson might have been ranked number 1 overall at the time of that game, now by losing, how far will they drop from Pitt? Now Pitt's officially
Right.
in. It
Because
does
they'd
bring a
still
whole
be
new
an
level of
at-large
drama.
They'd probably be an at-large team still, but I'm assuming if you win your conferences, those are the top 6 seeds. So now you move from winning your conference and being the 2 seed if you're Clemson to now you can be no higher than like the 7th.
So my
Very
understanding is that there are 4 teams. The top 4 teams get a bye.
Yeah, that's huge.
But and here's where I have some beef, because here's the thing. Based on that, if you said the top 4 teams get a bye, there's 6 conference winning teams and then 6 at-large teams, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is this. From my understanding, you can only get a first round bye if you are a conference champion winner, which means Notre Dame could never
always have
get a first round bye, which a lot of, and so this guy, he was doing a great job breaking down like what this means, the ramifications for this. But basically he was saying a lot of people might say, oh yeah, well, Notre Dame doesn't play a 13th game, so that first game would be like their 13th game. Except that no, actually not, because that 13th game usually isn't an elimination game, right?
Right.
And now it would be an elimination game. And apparently this guy was upset because Jack Swarbrick, who's the AD for Notre Dame, is like not understanding this. Like, he's like pretty much sounds like all in favor for this whole thing, and he's not really putting together that it's a disadvantage for Notre Dame, because they're always going to have an extra step to take to win a championship. And
yeah, I get that.
I understand, because again, I'm a newer Notre Dame fan. I understand why people hate Notre Dame. I get it. And I get that probably a lot of people are in favor because it does screw Notre Dame over, probably including yourself. But
well, even like the easy answer is, well, then just join a conference, So like, as a Notre Dame hater, that's where I would land. But I do get why, if you're Notre Dame
and that's
fan,
what they want. And I'm also not such an, so I would call myself a diehard Notre Dame fan, but I'm not in so deep because I'm still new. I'm not in so deep where I'm this person that's like, oh, we really need to have like, we need to stay independent.
like a purist, like one of the traditional Notre Dame
I
fan,
thoroughly
right?
enjoyed last season when they were part of the ACC.
Right. I think, like, honestly, them being in the ACC would be the best thing long term for football because it makes that division or it makes that conference better. There's a chance you get ACC championship games with Clemson, Notre Dame on an almost yearly basis in a game that means a lot. Like, I think that'd be awesome. And I get why people who've been fans of the team for decades want to remain independent. And I'm not going to speak to that and say they shouldn't because it's a tradition thing and that gets complicated with college football. But just like with this new playoff, to me, it makes the most sense. So
yeah. I don't know. The ACC. So the reason the ACC is easy to join is out of convenience because Notre Dame already has like a partial agreement with the ACC that they always play like 3 or 4 of their games a season against ACC teams. Like a lot of their games are against ACC teams, and that's just like part of a contract they have drawn up. But if I could choose any conference to put them in, it would be the Big Ten. I mean,
oh, for sure.
When you look at the fact that a lot of Notre Dame's
Geographically,
historic rivalries are with the Big Ten, geographically, and the fact that really the only powerhouse school is Ohio State, and with the rise of IU as starting to look legitimate as a football school,
you could almost create new rivalries based on geographic and conference ties. So
and
I completely
and what you would have to do if you put Notre Dame in the Big Ten as the Big Ten commissioner, what you would have to do is figure out a way for Notre Dame to be part of the Western Conference to set up Notre Dame Ohio State conference championships because that would be legit.
Well, here's the other thing. I think Michigan, in the next couple of years would probably be on track to do this anyway, but the college football playoff makes sure of it. I think they're going to get rid of divisions in the conference and do what they used to do and just have the 2 teams with the best record play at the end of the year, and that's your that's your championship. There's no reason why Ohio State should continue to play with Michigan not being good. Like, it kind of takes some of this away, but like there's been years when Michigan was clearly the second best team in the Big Ten, or Penn State was, and then they don't play Ohio State in the college football championship because they aren't in the other division. So instead you have Northwestern. All right, really, like Northwestern, who's 3 games worse than Penn State, is going to play Ohio State in the championship.
Last year, IU was the one that was good. And IU gave Ohio State a run for their money.
Yeah, give me a rematch of that in the championship. Like, I don't get it. So to me, I would rather just see the big. And I think this is another reason why I support the college football playoff. It forces conferences to be better and more efficient with how with how they do their championship. It makes the championship game mean more, and then it forces conferences, if you want your best shot to get more teams in the postseason or your better teams in the postseason, it forces you to get your own conference lined up the right way.
And I think the most important factor is what you already alluded to, and that is the parity it would bring. Like, it does sound silly to say Alabama versus Boise State or whatever at this stage, but who knows 10 years from now how that could change, because if people see that Boise State is regularly winning their conference or being somewhere in that discussion, now all of a sudden Boise State is going to get a lot of attention from a lot of recruits, and it's the best of both worlds in my opinion, because the NCAA will continue to get their elite money-making programs in the playoff while also getting more teams, more opportunities, which really will just bring more money to those schools and to the association.
Because those elite teams are also playing more televised games. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, really, when you look at this bracket, so let me actually share my screen so we can show the people who are viewing the bracket. Sorry if you're watching this. I don't care.
So wait, this is like filled out with previous years to show what it would have been, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
sweet.
All right. No, it's not to what it would have been, but this is what it looks like.
Because that'd be cool to go back and see, like, okay, what would this have meant if this system was in place in 2016? You know, like, and I think people would be pleasantly surprised with how many good matchups you would have got.
But as you can see here, so
Okay.
there's 4 teams that get a bye on either side, right?
Mhm.
And then you have the other wait.
So the others are basically kind of a play-in game to get into the 8-team playoff.
I'm sorry. So there's 6 teams on either side. 4 teams play in the first round. And there's 2 that advance to a bye. And then those 4 teams, they play each other. The winner of that game plays one of the teams that had the bye. And then from there it's pretty standard into like, what would that be? Elite 8, Final Four
Right.
championship.
I wonder if they'll call it that because it's also NCAA. Like the licensing and stuff wouldn't be an issue.
Terrific 12.
Right. Terrific.
But yeah, so that's that. I
Cool.
think it's pretty nifty, pretty cool.
Pretty swell.
Very swell.
That's pretty keen.
It's rad.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, I
think I agree with you. I think it would do nothing but boost college football. And college football already is such a hot money making commodity. It's almost preposterous to think that it could get any more popular. But if you did this, it would.
Yeah, and just to use a couple of recent examples, UCF, remember they went undefeated and then it was kind of a joke, but they said we were the real national champions. Imagine they actually got a chance to go into the playoff. And they were probably not going to be seeded so low they'd have to play Alabama right away. You're probably going to have at least a somewhat favorable matchup. Maybe you win the first round. I'm not saying they're going to win the championship that year or anything, but if UCF is able to actually capitalize on that 1 year and not just be a joke, but be a team that then goes into the postseason and wins a game or 2, like that's actually huge for their program. Maybe next year recruits actually are even more likely to go to a school like that. Or you look at like Alabama, every year they not only have an NFL quarterback, but they have a guy on their bench who's also going to be an NFL quarterback the next year. Like it's just how it works. Like you currently have 2 or 3
same
NFL
with
quarterbacks.
Clemson.
Yeah, same. It's like, oh, okay, so this Tua is going to leave. Well, that Mac Jones has been waiting there, knowing he's an NFL caliber quarterback, just waiting for my 1 year.
Our backup before Mac Jones was Jalen Hurts, but he got sick of being a backup, so he transferred to Oklahoma, and now he's a starting quarterback.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting is like he transfers to Oklahoma, but like normally you'll have guys like that just sit on the bench and just say, you know what, I know I'm going to the NFL. I'm just going to wait for my 1 year, and then the 1 year I get to start, I'm going to leave right after that.
Yeah.
Well, what if you have now multiple teams who have chances to make the playoffs and guys can raise their stock more on these other teams? Yep. Now maybe it's more of a question. Do I want to be the 3rd string quarterback for Alabama, or do I want to go start right now at Wisconsin? Right now, it's not really a question. It's better for my NFL prospects to play for Alabama and just wait, and eventually I can play in 1 playoff game, and that's all I need. But if Wisconsin now is making the playoff most years, maybe a guy now says, hey, I can get more national attention playing in a playoff game in Madison, Wisconsin. Like, you get more opportunities like that, then he goes there and does that, and then it's butterfly effect. Some kid sees, oh, I loved the Wisconsin quarterback. Like, now he wants to play for Wisconsin when he grows up. And then like it's a snowball effect that you're not going to see for the first few years. But as these teams that normally weren't in the playoff make the playoff, you're going to see 10 years down the road, whole different dynasties, whole different legacies of teams that people want to play for. Like otherwise 20 years from now, you're going to see the same 4 teams in the playoff. Like I guarantee 20 years from now, you're still going to see Alabama, Ohio State, and at least 2 of the 3, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson, will still be right where they are, even with new coaches. So, no, this is great. It's great for the sport as a fan, and just objectively, it's good for the.
And again, this bracket sets it up perfectly that no one team that is one of the quote unquote elite teams should feel slighted, because if you're Ohio State, like, okay, so let's just fill this out. So like just based on like last year. So last year, the 4 were Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame. So you figure On this side, you probably have Alabama and Notre Dame, and then Clemson and Ohio State, right?
Okay.
So Clemson, Ohio State on the left, Alabama, Notre Dame on the right. Then you have whatever the other teams were.
Teams like Florida, Oregon.
Texas A&M.
Yep. Teams that were like top 10 teams at the end of last year and made like New Year's Six bowl games, like
Iowa State, weren't they pretty
games.
high? Iowa
yeah,
State.
they were. Yep.
So like teams like that you would see get in here, and so let's say if you had Iowa State and Florida wins. Now you have a Florida Notre Dame matchup. Notre Dame wins because I'm a Notre Dame fan. Then and over here you have, I don't know. You could work out the whole scenario, but when it comes down to it, you're gonna end up most of the time still with one of those top 4 teams being the national champion in the end. So it doesn't slight the elite teams or the elite programs while also giving opportunity for more teams and more programs to become elite.
And I'm sure for the next 4 years, you're still going to see one of those current teams that are winning the championships continue to win the championships because they already have those recruits, and it takes a long time to turn things around in college football. So you're still going to see the same championships, just with more excitement and more games to watch, even better. And then 10 years from now, or hopefully probably not even that long, but several years from now, you start to see the impact of that decision when it comes to like actual competition,
Exactly.
So no, I'm glad you brought this up. I think as we get more,
as it gets confirmed and agreed upon, and we get more details, because this has not been confirmed. It's just a rumor. It's something they're considering, something they're discussing. And so, I think, again, if you can do, everybody know, like March Madness is one of the most elite sports events that happens in America. Everybody talks about it, and it's not as crazy because there would only be 12 teams as opposed to 64, but you darn know that the NCAA is going to put together brackets. There's going to be now college football. Did you fill out your bracket? Probably not $1 million prizes, but maybe like a $10,000 prize for a correct bracket. Like, there's going to be stuff like this. It's going to be way more interesting, way more exciting, and better for the sport overall. So it's better for the players. Like, if you're looking from a player perspective, you're at let's say you were a 4-star athlete and the best school you got offered to was Boise State for whatever reason, and you're down on your luck, but as you've been playing there, you've really come out to be a star. You're up and coming NFL guy. Like, by having the opportunity to play in a playoff game would mean a lot. And you kind of liken it to, say you get a player on a team that's like a Cade Cunningham. Okay, nobody ever talks about Oklahoma State basketball. Obviously, Cade Cunningham made that team relevant this year, and it was huge that they were able to be included and make a short run in March Madness to provide him that experience moving forward now with an NBA career. And you could do that for all these athletes as well.
No, and I mean, every year in college basketball, there's a Loyola Chicago or some team like that. And it's like, I agree, college football isn't going to be to that extent just because there's less teams, but it's impossible to have a Cinderella if only 4 people get invited to the ball. Like, that's the whole point of expanding the field. You at least create possibilities for something like that to happen. I just hope, as awesome as this is, college basketball or college football and MLB baseball have a lot of similarities in that they're both awesome sports with a lot of tradition that often do things to kill themselves. So I could just see this with how cool this sounds and how great it would be being something that a week from now, actually NCAA voted to turn this down, and they've like committed to a 4-team playoff through 2028. Like, it's just something I could see college football doing. Like, I love the sport, but the sport, like the way the sport is run, makes me hate it. Kind of like the MLB at times. So,
like fear. One of those things with NCAA football is like people are like, oh, what I want is for them to pay the players, and NCAA is like, well, we'll consider it. You know what we'll do? We'll pay them for their likeness. And so it's like, okay, so you're still getting around paying. You're not still really paying the players. You're just paying them anytime you or another brand or product uses their likeness. That's all you're paying for. And
Watch, they'll do like the bare minimum in this too. Like, all right, we've decided we're going to come out and we're going to have a play-in game for just the 4th seed. So we'll allow one extra team to have a chance at the playoff. Like, okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
so we'll see.
But yeah, I think there's a reason to be optimistic and hopeful,
sure.
Especially to counter all the negative college football news we just talked about.
Yeah.
So
I would hope. Yeah. Unfortunately, with even the playoff being expanded to 12, it looks like Michigan won't be able to take advantage of even that for a while.
Yeah.
Yikes.
You're really gonna need to find a temporary surrogate team or something.
That's been fun. I mean, it worked for NHL and NBA. It did make me care more. So I guess I'm even more open to that now than I was a few weeks ago. So silver linings.
Yeah. Well, before we do our silver linings, let's talk about some FN idiots right after this Anchor ad. For those that are listening, if you're on the video, enjoy not hearing an Anchor ad. Okay.
Right. So you start with your effing idiot.
Yeah, so we're doing effing idiots, and mine is one I don't have sound capabilities of sharing, but you don't really need sound. So I'm going to play this video for anybody who will be watching the YouTube stream later and for Man of the Michigan Hat and myself to see. We'll try to describe what's going on for those that are listening. So let me get my screen shared here. So on our notes, I wrote mother duck.
Watch your language.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just see what happens.
Okay. Wait. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Let me start that over. Hold on.
Wow. Spoiler. Okay. Here we go. Mother duck walks over a grate and one of the babies falls in. Stops, turns around, runs over all the babies to go back for clearly her favorite, and all the rest fall down too. Turns and looks. Last one kamikazes himself to join his brothers and sisters. This would be a really sad video if there was no one to rescue them.
I thought that. Dude, I didn't know that
there was imagine the camera shuts off right there.
Yeah, I didn't know there was going to be someone that came and rescued them. And like people were joking like, "Oh, Mama Duck is not good at this." And I remember watching this just being like, "This is like all these babies just died and she has no
imagine
way
it's not like a little thing, like they drop into like a waterfall, like one of those big Jeez.
So here's my question for you. Is the Mama Duck the effing idiot, or is the first duckling the effing idiot that falls into the stupid grate?
I think it's the last duckling who just willingly jumps in after everyone else. Like, I guess this is what we're doing. It's got to be partly the first duckling who fell in though, because all the rest were fine. Like, what did he do that he fell in?
Exactly. So
I'm not gonna say the mom. Like, I'm gonna give her a break. I know how it is as a parent, just having 2 kids like you do. It's like if I had 6 kids, there's a good chance one of them would fall down a cliff at some point. Like, it's just
at that
point,
the
reality.
Yeah.
At that point, don't turn around. Don't risk the rest of them. You know what? Like you do the quick mental math and you just keep walking.
Yeah, I mean, imagine
that's tough.
Imagine being the Duggars.
You got a lot of room to work with on that.
Yeah,
you could lose 6 or 7, and still mathematically you're barely a dent.
Yeah, right. Yes, you lose 6 or 7, and it's like still, $1,000 to feed everybody each week. So.
Percentage wise, you're not seeing a huge decrease.
Right.
Yeah. So no, I'll give the mom duck a break.
Do you think how many pounds of beef do you think the Duggar family buys to eat tacos?
Jeez. I mean, a typical family of 4 is using what? Probably 2 pounds.
Really?
maybe just
sure.
a pound. Depends. I guess if the kids are older or whatever. I don't know. I'm thinking my family growing up, we'd use like
2 pounds is
5
probably
pounds
right.
because we had 7. So they're probably looking at least 12 to 15 pounds of ground beef. Jeez. How do you even cook that on a stove? Are they just using like They probably have like just an industrial kitchen, right? You'd have
to.
Imagine you're making like burgers or something, trying to flip 40 hammers. Jeez. It's crazy.
Well, they're, wait, are they your effing idiot? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you could make a case, but no, I won't. My effing idiot is going to be.
Ever heard of vasectomies, Jim Bob?
Protection. Say it with me. No, my effing idiot. We
they
mentioned
would not make it long in China. I'll tell you that much.
Ugh, yeah, a lot of. How long would you be in prison? Because it's against the law.
Would you be in prison?
I don't know if you can be imprisoned or.
Well, the good news is they would have a lot of boys to choose from.
Pick your favorite, right? Man, this got dark really fast. Well, my effing idiot is going to be.
Not my fault. Blame Mao.
Yeah. I mean, that probably applies to most things, right? Like, just blame Mao.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good scapegoat. Yeah, mine's going to be the whole Jokic ejection thing that happened tonight.
Feels like
I don't know
so
if
long ago. There was so much
old news, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm not going to say Jokic is, because he's doing what he can to carry this team and make a hard play for the ball in what was at that time still a fairly close game. Like, it's got to just be the officials, and they went to video review. So whatever official called down and said, yeah, we're going to eject him. I know the calls are not supposed to be based situationally. It's supposed to not matter what situation you're in with any sports call. Like, you make the right call, right? Firstly, even just doing that, I don't think that's worthy of an ejection. But secondly, I don't know how you don't have in the back of your head, this is the MVP of the league trying to will his team through sheer effort to a game 5 and avoid elimination. It's got to be good for the league to have the MVP play another game. You don't want him to get swept. It's just very bizarre to me that they would eject him here. It's not like he has a history of doing things like this. So they're trying to stop the game from getting out of hand. He's at home. Like, you're not worried about the fans freaking out. There's zero reason why I can even make any logical sense of the fact that they did this. It's not even that I disagree with it. I'm just shocked that this would even happen. So, yeah, F an idiot to the league and the league officials ejecting Jokic. Not that it would have necessarily made a difference in the outcome of this game. But now what you've done is you kind of put a stain on the series. What should have been a really dominant and good series for our Suns. Now you have that little bit of
SUNS.
Yeah, our sons, our children. Yeah, it's just kind of a stain on the series, and just a really, really rough call to make in that situation. It just doesn't make sense to me. So
I agree. Well, should we finish off with our silver linings?
It is our tradition. So yeah, let's do it. My silver lining, I'll start real quick. It is grilling season officially. I know it has been for a little while, but just last week was
usually
the first
Memorial
week.
Day marks grilling season.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a late start on it this year. That's on me as the home grill master. I was a little unprepared going into this grill season. Just had to get get the grill situated, all that. Last week I grilled just once. You got to ease your way into it. You want to avoid any injury, avoid any grilling disasters. You need a warm up grill, warm up grilling night. So yeah, this week we grilled twice, and then now this week I think half our meals this week are going to be stuff that I grill. So really starting to get in my rhythm. I think I'm going to be peaking at the right time this grill season. I've been training for this all off season. I think that all the work I've been putting in is going to be paying off. So as we get into the most important season in the sporting world, grilling season, I think I'm really prepared. I'm proud of the work I've been doing, and excited to show the results of that this year. So
I have a quick
I just
thought.
did corn on the cob. I've got brats coming up tomorrow.
I made burgers and corn on the cob tonight on the grill.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's electric. I mean, as a dad, you
Actually,
lose a
it's
lot
gas.
of the it's Sam actually, yeah. But
Propane. Yeah.
dad joke, yeah, really ties the whole topic together. But as a dad, you lose a lot of excitement in some areas of life from an outside
What is
perspective.
that
Like
supposed to mean?
people could argue that as you get older and you're a dad, maybe things are just a little less exciting, a little less adventurous, but nothing is more.
And if you find yourself in that situation, there's no solution better than Blue Chew. Sign up now with our code Frustrate.
Nothing makes you feel more like a man than grilling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the moment dads dream of.
The best
and,
though.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is
Yep.
like I don't know if you do this, but one of the best things to do in the world is to be grilling, to have some of your favorite music playing, and a cold beer.
Little
It is
koozie on the grill rack to the side.
so good.
You flip the burgers, close the lid, click the tongs a few times, and then take a nice sip of your cold beer.
Let me just say that that cold beer, the one you have while you're grilling, goes down fast.
Yeah, it does. It goes. Yeah.
It
does. But nothing tastes better than that, the grill beer. So
yeah, I agree. Have you ever had a shower beer?
I did one time just to see what all the hype was about. I think it's a little overhyped, honestly.
I've never tried it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try it this week. I'll try it this week and get back to you guys next week.
I think it would work if it's like an outdoor shower. Like after you go to the beach, those outdoor showers, that kind of thing. Yeah, not just a random, like, so a beach house with an outdoor shower or something. I don't know, something about like it feels like more of a chore. I guess if you're not set up right for it. Maybe somebody has the perfect shower for this where they have like an extra shelf or something and it just works.
Oh, I see.
And I get how it would be. I get the appeal. Like you have a cold beer with a hot shower. Like I get it. I just feel like it's something that sounds better on paper. Maybe.
Yeah, because now I'm thinking about my shower. I don't really have an extra shelf. It's just like a stand-up shower.
Yeah, we have like glass walls in the shower. It's like I'm just gonna hold the beer the whole time. So and you can't set it down. You get soap in your beer. Yeah, right. That was a very if you're watching the podcast, that was a very provocative little dance you just did.
Gotta clean that under boob.
Our viewers only. Yeah. Yeah. So grill beer is definitely, if we go back to our college football playoff, they get a first round bye for sure. A grill beer is one of the premier beers you can have. But I think shower beer deserves to be in the tournament. I just don't know that it's got a real shot. So yeah.
Well, my silver lining is just a quick update on my house journey. So from I got a text from our lender who said, "Congratulations, everything's been submitted to underwriting." And I know that sounds like not a big deal, but the reason it is because I know our lender and I know he is going through. He's like double and triple checking everything.
Like
make sure that everything is in order, so that when they present it all to underwriting, that it won't be an issue to get everything approved. So.
Yep.
That part is good. I'm thankful that at least this initial bout of paperwork is over. And I'm hoping that as the weeks wear on, I know obviously on the closing day, that'll be a mountain of paperwork, but on these next couple of weeks, I hope we can focus on packing our house, because you kind of need to pack your house if you're going to move. And really the biggest stress I have this week is the appraisal. Hoping that everything comes back good and that it appraises out. Because if it comes back under, we're going to have some renegotiating to do, or maybe not even be able to get the house. I don't know. I'm gonna hold the faith that everything's worked out so far. I'm gonna hope that things will continue to work out with the appraisal. So, but yeah, this is a big week. Yeah, we have the appraisal and the inspection this week.
Nice.
So we get to go back and see the house again on Wednesday when the inspection is happening. My parents are going to drive down on Wednesday so they can come see it.
Oh,
And
cool.
my in-laws, we arranged with the realtor to extend the window a little later on the day of the inspection so my in-laws can get off work and come see it.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
So yeah,
I just remember this when we bought the house. Like, you buy it, or even if it's not official yet, you make the offer, it's accepted, you're doing the paperwork, and I just remember wanting to go back in the house. It's like now we have to wait this long to go see it again, especially if you don't live right by it. It's like you just want to go see it again.
I was talking to my grandpa this past weekend. He was like, he's giving me this couch he's getting rid of and this coffee table, which is nice. But like, as I'm walking out, he's like, "Oh, do you need these these wall brackets for your garage? They make great shelves. Do you need this bike rack?" And I'm just like, I just told him, I just said, "Grandpa, I really appreciate it. I'll get back to you next week. I've literally seen this house once.
Right.
That was during the open house. Like, let me go back again, soak it in, and then I will let you know if those are things that I would like."
Yeah, because you're still at the point where it's like, now you're first just trying to think, is this even real? Like, can we even get this house? Now that it's looking like more and more closer to that, it's like now you can actually start to let yourself think,
yeah,
okay, this specific item, where would it go? What will the layout be? And it's like all you want to do is get back in the house to continue that process.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but instead you get stuck doing paperwork for 3 weeks. So no, I know how that is. Yeah. But yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, the paperwork I'm not looking forward to, but if it means that I get a house and a place to live and a house that I like, then it's worth it.
I got to the point where at the end we had already went through everything. I was like, I'm just signing all this, like, and it worked out. I mean, yeah.
What do you mean? Like, you didn't take time to read through it?
Like, when we got to the whatever it's called, where they
closing.
Well, that, but like, what's the escrow or something? Like, what's the company where they have to?
Yeah, escrow.
They like, yeah, it's like that, and it's like you're actually signing all the paperwork, and you have to write your signature like 80 times. And you're just like, can we just please finish this? Just flip and sign, flip and sign. They're explaining it as you go. It's just like you've kind of already went through all the important stuff, just talking through the people doing your loan and everything. So once it gets to the point, it's a lot of redundant stuff. It's just
well, yeah. And so many of it's like stuff that's like either would never happen to you or something that doesn't even really pertain to you. Like, it'll be something like, because I can relate, I haven't signed those kinds of papers yet, but I can relate with like car stuff. Like, this is sign this here to say that we explained this promotion opportunity for you, or like
sign here to say that we explained how you should drive in case of a nearby hurricane. It's like,
right.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. Okay, now page 74B, we'll talk about the zombie apocalypse procedures. Yeah. Yep. So much. Yeah. Yeah. But like you said, it's one of those things where you get through it and it's worth it. But
relax. Go through it.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. All right. Well, that's what we're frustrated about today. What about you? I don't care, but share your frustrations with us or about us at Real FM Podcast on social media or Frustration Nation at shootyourshotsports.com. Voice your frustrations and leave us a review. And if you're frustrated that this episode is over because you want to hear more, be sure to look for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. And Thursday. We don't release on Thursdays. This is an old script. Everywhere you can get podcasts, and be sure to subscribe. If you get as frustrated as we do, or you just enjoy hearing us gab, consider supporting the show on Patreon for a monthly subscription or Venmo tip jar for a one-time donation. Every little bit helps. Even $1, which is a lot of money for a hobo to make, makes a big difference for us. We appreciate the support. Now get out there and frustrate the hate. And to all of our hobo listeners, we love you and we appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Frustration Nation. Bye.